Welcome back to Confident Leadership in Color. We'll start right where I left you off last time, from the editing room, because today we're jumping straight back into the conversation with leadership coach Caroline Grégoire. A conversation that began in last week's episode. If you missed that one, you can go back and listen before or after this one. I really recommend you to listen on it because we explored a beautiful take on confidence, not as something you perform, but as your own vibe. Caroline, like me, works as a leadership coach, and before we dive into the rest of our conversation, I just want to say one of the reasons I invited her to the podcast is because I see how she truly embodies confidence in what she does. The way she leads, speaks, and supports others is grounded, vibrant, and real. And here I explain more on how I see her showing that. One part that I'm so impressed about how she shows confidence, and that is through her figure skating, because that is a passion of her. When we spoke about this, I think we met in February this year, and you said that, well, in my heart, I am a figure skating artist. That is my true part, and that she really shows. Even though she's living in Portugal, she is pursuing that dream. I think it's marvelous. She shows that confident driving 500 kilometers one direction just to be able to practice. But that also shows her dedication, fulfilling the dream she have. And she actually is the number one in her category in Portugal. So she has won that championship there this year. Last year it was second place. Now it's the gold medal. I'm Hanna Saxmy, your leadership coach, and this podcast is your confidence boost in color. Let's go. If you look back a bit, what has happened in your life, and so is there moments where you feel like at that point my confidence really was challenged away, and or maybe grow extra much during a time?
I will start with when it was challenging. In 2010, I took a leadership role at a reinsurance company. And really, my goal for me was to learn to be a leader and from there to be the best leader that I could be for me. And yes, for my team for sure. So, this is what really kept my drive every day. In doing so, I changed a little bit the focus on the topics that I was working with. I used to work before that, I was working a lot with numbers, number crunching, and actuarial stuff. And in taking on that role, I was responsible for topics that were qualitative, but I had my team of experts. So, I was fine. I thought I can really concentrate my work as a leader leading that team. Uh, my team knows what to do, they know the topic. What I didn't know along the way is that we were involved in a process, or within the insurance world, there were new standards that needed to be implemented, which was called Solvency II. But there was a lot of admin stuff to do. There were many meetings with the regulator. There were many new guidelines that needed to be written, that needed to be implemented. And there were times when I felt I don't really buy all that stuff. And this felt difficult, very difficult to sit in meetings where sometimes I felt like I doubt that it's bringing the company forward. And it felt heavy. And it even felt so that over time, I had the impression for me that I was moving slowly down into my zone of incompetence. I don't know if you're familiar with these four types of zone. There's the zone of incompetence, the zone of competence, the zone of excellence, and the zone of genius. So slowly I felt like I'm not good at that. I knew that I had to keep my vision, leading my team the best I can. And this is what kept me actually really going for quite a while. Also, I had in being a leader with my team, I think I was always moving closer to my zone of genius. I was also organizing group wide conferences on risk management. I was in my zone of genius. So there was a balance, at least, let's say. But at one point, it felt like I don't want anymore to slip into my zone of incompetence. I've done it. Okay, let's tick the box. And now someone else can do this job. And maybe it will be their zone of genius, but it's not going to be my zone of genius. So at one point, I decided, okay, now it's time for me to move forward and do something that is in my zone of genius, which was to leave that job and to start my own company now as a coach, mentor, keynote speaker, and trainer.
That experience, if I summarize it, it sounds like you built up in that confidence really to move at that point.
Mhm.
Yeah, it gave you that urge to move to something you saw was much better for you, if we take it.
Yes.
Yeah, I like what we were talking about before because you have learned a lot of things during that time. So I think that's also it's a way of building up confidence. What do I really want to do and such.
Of course. I see, and I think it's similar for you. I see all experiences that we have, whether they are good or bad, they're just ways of learning and of growing. Even if people may hear frustrations, I just, it's fine for me. I learn out of there, and then I decided to move on it at some point.
And I think one of the things that I have a bit challenge of saying that I made a mistake or such. It's not that I'm not doing mistakes, but it's more like I'm learning. But yeah, I have tried this now. Didn't go so well, but I learned this then. So that means that I can test another way or something else going forward. And it adds up in that experience and also confidence that I don't want to go that way, this way.
I think we're always very hard with ourselves. I think we believe that we always have to do it right from the start. And actually, you mentioned it, it's moving step by step, adjusting along the way, and accepting what is. I think we can always learn from, I will say, mistakes. And sometimes it's years later that we realize what the learning was. It's not the
Yeah,
next day. Sometimes you're like, what do I need to learn from that? You have no clue, but maybe years later, you know
yeah.
what it is.
Needs the timeline in that sense to get perspective of things. It's always interesting to see what new pieces in the lifelong puzzle that we're doing, that we
Yes.
find new things that we maybe
Yes.
has slipped under something that we didn't know. Yeah, you come into what built that confidence to really start your business.
Yes, I had been thinking of starting a business even before I started that leadership position. It
Yeah.
was something that was always in back of my mind. So that's why I had started this training where you and I met. And so it was really like I discovered while I had this leadership position that my zone of genius is to empower others. So it's like at that point, it was when I don't try it now, then when? It was the ideal moment. And from knowing this, it gave me the confidence that I needed.
When you feel that you are not really that confident. So how do you realign again to like go into that alignment?
When I don't feel aligned, it can be, sometimes it's just in the little nitty gritty stuff of the daily life or the daily work. Sometimes it's in a bigger perspective. But when I realize I don't feel aligned, the first thing I do is take a break. It's Can be 1 minute, it can be 5 minutes, it can be half a day, it can be 1 hour. What I take a break because at that moment I may be too much in my head and I need to take a new perspective on
Mm,
what's happening.
mm,
If I'm not aligned, probably I will realize that I'm stuck somewhere in what I'm trying to do. And while I take that break and try to leave my head, I,
mm,
I, I need to move, do some exercise, take a walk. I need to go in my body because
mm,
I want to feel good and strong in my body. So I leave the problem from here to go somewhere else where I know I feel better.
mm,
And after this break and this moving, let's say, I'm able to look at, let's say, what happened or what is happening from a different perspective and realize, okay, what is it that I need to focus on?
mm,
What is the most important now? And do I need to do more of something? And do I need to do less of something?
mm,
Because
mm,
I think we live a lot in even if with my clients I see they have more work, there are more processes, it's always
mm,
more. It's like,
mm,
can you do less of something? And I think we need to apply this to us as well,
mm,
because we live in a society where performance, doing more and more, it's
mm,
being celebrated, which is
mm,
nice, but sometimes it's not helpful. What can you do less of
mm,
that will bring you more focus, more energy, and in
mm.
the end, more alignment?
Really valuable point there because it's yeah, I think it's easy to just add on things and then not really reflecting on like, is this actually meaningful or needed to do? Being in that corporate world, I'm not sure how many reports have been written.
Yes, I agree with you.
I'm
I
wondering,
know.
does anyone read them or not?
Yes. Can you do less report or can you do them shorter? That they're more to the point, I
Yeah.
don't know. There are so many things that probably are not needed anymore. Or,
Mm,
sometimes yeah, we have always done it like this. Okay.
mm,
How do
yeah.
you want to do it in the future?
Yeah, and I think it's more like short term, maybe we need to do it, but long term,
Yeah.
what is actually bringing the right impact or effect that we want in that sense?
Mm.
It probably not that specific report.
Because I think sometimes in the day to day, we are so busy with the different short term tasks that we forget to take the time to reflect on, is it really needed going
Mm,
forward, or is it
mm.
meaningful? Is it bringing us forward? And we need to make space for this time of reflection.
When I was getting a lot of those requests at my former job, at the end I started to ask like, okay, what is the value you want to out of it? And understanding like, are they what do they really want to have as a result of this? And that also made them to start thinking about when they requested stuff because at the end they realized that oh, it was actually not that report we wanted this instead and so on, so that's also maybe also ask that to that person, maybe is that what do you really
Yes,
want of out of it.
yes, yes, yes. Do you say thank you because it was done like this in the past, but you only need half of the information? If you only need half of the information, I can make a smaller report.
And that's the beauty with the AI now. We can just add in and then they can produce it in various ways. So I think that's a good improvement in that sense. So you have already touched upon it a bit, but if someone now listening on this, what would be your advice to a bit boost their confidence if they felt like I don't have confidence or and so on? What would you say to that person to work with that?
I like to remind people, and now for everybody listening, you were born with confidence.
Mm,
Otherwise, you wouldn't be born. You know, and if you look at the small baby, when it's unhappy, it cries with full voice. It doesn't think, oh, mom and dad don't like it, I won't cry. It doesn't think like that. It's just there, fully confident.
Mm.
So that's the first thing I would like people to take with them. I think
Mm.
that everybody listening today. And why we lost part of it over time is that, we went to school, we were told, oh, you cannot behave like this, you shouldn't say this. And then it continued even in the workplace. We just try to fit in all of the time, let's say. I would ask this person, yeah, why, what is it you need confidence with right now?
Mm.
Is it to, leave a job or start a new business, or what? I would ask that person also this, to know what is the vision, what is it you want to reach moving forward, because it may be a longing, and if there's a longing, keep in mind that the longing is waiting for you. It wants you to go there.
Mm. Mm.
So, what is the smallest steps you can take today that you give yourself permission, and that will keep you in your, let's say, power, and that will keep you safe as well? What is the smallest step to give yourself the permission to make that will keep you in your power and will keep you safe as well? And once you've done it, you survived it. Sometimes, we think about worst case scenario, it's only in our head. No, I've survived it. Then what is the second smallest step you can
Yeah.
do? So you can build also like this bit by bit.
Yeah, no, it's that being in motion, so to
Mm.
say, because
Yes.
sitting still and thinking will not take you anywhere in that sense.
No.
So it's more, and yes, there will be adjustments on the way. Like it's each time you try something new or such, that will definitely build confidence because you can see that from the past. I have done so much.
Yeah.
So doing this small thing, then it's, I have confidence that I have done it before. So I can do it something new again, so to say.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. Yes. And sometimes I like to think, maybe all the things that brought your confidence down, on things that were said to you or done to you or whatever, or that you interpreted in a way that
Mm.
it brought your confidence down. This is the past. You
Mm.
can take all this confidence that you gave away, take it back now,
Mm.
take it back and move from there. Make the
Mm.
smallest step you can make.
Definitely. And what we talked about also, that the past is to learn. So, and
Mm.
we can't
Yeah.
change that. So
Mm.
it's more like, what will I bring with me from that, instead of focusing that I bring all of the things. We can actually leave things behind. That's
Yes.
the beauty of it. We decide. We are the
Yes.
directors of our life in that
Yes.
sense. Mm.
Yes. And that's a little bit in the similar vein of doing more, to carry less, doing
Mm.
less, it's carry less,
Yeah.
carry less of, I would say, the garbage from the
Yeah.
past. And when I started to that bigger leadership job in 2010, of course, I did some trainings years before also. Of course, I had been leading projects and smaller teams. And I was also observing a lot. How do other leaders lead their team? How do they do this?
Mm.
And after a while, I realized, okay, this I like, this I don't like, this
Mm.
is me, this is not me. Just at one point, I realized, actually, I can do it the way I want. I can bring who I am, I can bring my own colors,
Mm.
and it's a plus for me because it's close to who I am.
Mm.
I'm showing up authentically, and it's good for my team as well, you know.
Mm. And I think that is a beautiful way of showing confidence and showcasing that we are unique, each of us, and that what actually organization want to have. They don't want to have even even sometimes it doesn't feel like that, but they want to have different people, different colors, because that will bring them forward. So those organizations that are really good at having that variety, I think that is those that will thrive in the going forward and not sit still.
I agree. I agree. Because then they bring a whole, let's say, a holistic skill set. They bring, how can I say, a whole broad range of personalities,
Yeah.
then it needs to be clear what the strategy is. But I
Yeah.
think from that wealth of resources,
Mm.
I mean, it can only be a success.
We are actually starting to come to the end of this conversation. I can continue for hours more. But is there anything you want to add in now, Caroline, that you have been thinking about that?
What I would like to say to people listening is that try as much as you can to live in your zone of genius, because that's where you will be the most confident. That's where you'll be happiest and you'll be most aligned. In that sense, stop trying to fit everywhere, especially in the zone of incompetence. Try not to go there and really bring your own vibe. And I think with vibe, I think we can even, it comes down to colors, because each color has a vibe or vibration. So the world will benefit from it,
Yeah.
from your own color or colors and vibes.
Yeah, and that's maybe injection we should give to those that are listening now. So go out in your world, so to say, and do something from your heart. What
Yeah.
you're doing in your work, add in part of your passion in that work, and see what that will happen. Like an extra tone vibe from you, and see what that will lead. How will you feel and how will it be perceived from the others?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that you joined in here today, Caroline, and having this first conversation here on this podcast. I know that you are engaged in many speaker events and such, but you work as a coach as well. And if someone is interested to work with you in some way, how do they easiest get in touch with you?
They can connect with me on LinkedIn. They can also check my website at cg-four.com. You can follow me on Instagram at coach.Caroline Grégoire. And I also have a YouTube channel. It's Caroline Grégoire Coaching. And also I will be later this month, or in August, I'll be launching a course on how to boost your confidence. So, and Hanna will give you the link. So, if people are interested to register or to register for the waiting list, we'd be happy to see you there.
So I will put all of these details in the show notes, so it's easy for you to find it. I would say that follow her on Instagram, because I like she has some twist in her post sometimes that just make that extra laugh. I love her Christmas greetings, especially. They are so funny always. Follow her, and you will learn things and get small tips on the way.
Thank you, Hanna.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Caroline.
inviting me here. This is wonderful. I agree. I could continue the conversation for hours, but we know where to find each other. So
Exactly.
if we have the need to do another conversation at another time, that could be fun.
So, and our last official online conversation, you can find that through my LinkedIn page, actually. And I think that also on Caroline's YouTube channel, because last time we spoke online, we talked about the subject change,
Yes.
the only constant.
Variable.
Yeah, exactly. And so, if you are curious to hear more about together with us conversation about the subject, then you can view that too. But thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Hanna.
Looking forward, and next time we see what will happen. we will continue to talk about confidence in so many ways and also adding color to that. So stay tuned. And that brings us to the end of part 2 in my conversation with Caroline. I hope you have felt the same energy as I did, that grounded, vibrant confidence that Caroline brings. There's something so powerful in how she speaks about leadership, not as performance, but as a presence, about choosing your vibe, about letting go of what doesn't serve and daring to lead more from your own colors. One thing that really stayed with me today was the idea of the zone of genius. That when we try to fit into roles, expectations that aren't really ours, it drains us. But when we operate from the part of us that are energized, curious, and alive, confidence tends to follow. So here's your invitation for the week ahead. What's one thing you could do less of to create more space for actually what's matter? And what's one color of yours, a strength, a quality, a part of you that's been hiding a little? What would shift if you brought just like one tiny percent more of that into your work or conversations this week? You don't have to wait for your perfect conditions. Just take one small step. And as I talk about this act plus one, just that simple, easy step. That's how confident leadership grows in motions, in color, in your way. And thank you again, Caroline, for sharing so generously. And thank you for listening to this conversation. And if this episode resonated with you, send it to a friend or a colleague who might need a confidence boost right now. And don't forget, you can always sign up for my newsletter, Confidence Boost, to get tools and inspiration straight into your inbox. And all information on how you can get in contact with me or Caroline you find in the show notes. But until next time, be confident, be you. Inside of you.